Well, hello everybody. We're just getting started here today. Brilliant. So we've got everything, the audio and the slides. Wonderful. Um, Great. So, hello everybody. If you are able to see me now, you should be able to see on your screen the 5 ways to create status reports webinar with me, Elizabeth Harrin. And you should also be able to see a comments box at the bottom. So you can drop us a note to say, yes, you can see the slides. Yes, you can hear me okay. And if you'd also like to type in there where you're calling from, that would be quite interesting as well, just to find out where people are tonight from all over the world. Right, let's get started. Hello, I'll give you a proper formal introduction. I'm Elizabeth Harrin, and I just want to welcome you to this, really. I'm very happy that you could be here today on my inaugural webinar. And tonight I'm going to be talking about how you can create status reports that impress your project sponsor and save you some time. I know project reporting is a bit of a niche subject, but it's a big deal for me because it's one of the best ways to communicate about your project. Communication should be about 80% of a project manager's role, so you spend quite a lot of your time communicating, and reports are part of that. So I wanted to let you know that I know you've given up time to be here tonight. We're going to be about 40 minutes in total, and I want to thank you for giving me your time. And just to say that you're definitely in the right place if you want to spend less time reporting all the stuff that's happened in the past, more time doing actual work on your project. You're in the right place if you are fed up with your sponsor and your stakeholders saying that they don't know what's going on, even if you're giving them plenty of information about your project. And you're in the right place if you want reporting to be easier. It shouldn't be this hard, and if you believe it shouldn't be so much of a headache, then hopefully I've got some good things to share with you today. Before we kick off, I wanted to let you know that I have a freebie for you, and I hope you'll find it useful. Here is a sneak peek. I'll be telling you how you can get that at the end, so stay tuned for that later. And I can see several of you, lots of you have already found the chat box and are posting things in. So Kim from Illinois is coming in. We've got Tracy from Reno, so that's working really well. So thank you for finding that box, and you can use that at any point to paste your questions in the chat box, and I'll have some time for questions at the end. I'll pull out some queries to answer. They're coming through to me and my team on email, so if you don't get an immediate reply, that's why, and I promise that we'll get to you as soon as we can. So we can do that again. Let's use that. Tell me what role you're in. Before we get into the main part of today's presentation, I wanted to find out a bit more about you guys. Now, do you work in a project management role? Are you a project management office person? I mean, do you want to be a project manager, but you haven't yet made the jump to be a project manager? Me, I'm a business change manager, which, despite the title, is effectively a program manager. And I run a small business as well. I run, it's called Otterboss Consultants Limited. And I've got some of the answers here coming through from people. Project manager. Tammy, you're a project manager, stroke program manager. Who else have we got? We've had responses in from Lisa, from Angie, project office person, project manager, project office assistant. Carla is an IT project manager. So there's quite a variety of people. Prashanth, I hope I've said that right, is part of the PMO for his company or her company, his company. Andy from The Hague in the Netherlands is a project manager. So a lot of project managers on tonight. So thank you very much for giving me that information. And I'm sure that whatever your role, hopefully there's going to be parts of this presentation that will help you all communicate about the work you're doing, regardless of whether you're in the PMO, whether you're a project manager, whether you're in IT or another part of the business. So now I know a little bit more about you, I thought I should tell you a bit more about me and why I think communication is a really important topic for the people who are involved in projects. So let's go back to 2008, which is for me where my interest, I suppose, in communication and projects really started. You should be able to see this photo of me. It's me on stage at the Association for Project Management conference in London. I did a short presentation on how project management is keeping up with the business environment at the time. I talked about the financial crisis at the time, how we were expected to do more with less, and how virtual working and offshoring was changing the face of project teams. I also shared this slide as part of the presentation, which is about, I talked about new ways of working. I mean, they were new at the time. I don't think anyone today would consider messaging apps like Skype chat to be particularly revolutionary, but in 2008, they weren't in as much common use. The thing that most of these tools have in common is that they're digital. I was talking about shifting the way we do project management to online real-time working. One of the main points I made was that people outside of project management were already doing it. People younger than the guys in the audience that day had never known a world without Facebook. Other teams within their business probably had collaboration tools already, or if they didn't use online tools at work, then they certainly did outside of work. After that presentation, a couple of people came up to me and said that they hadn't looked at the role of a project manager in that way before, and that they hadn't considered the need to keep up with the ways that business had moved on or would be moving on in the years that we've seen since then. And at the time, to be honest, I wasn't surprised. Today, the picture is very different, and I would be surprised if someone said that to me today. To put it into perspective, I did a survey last year of my blog readers. I blog at girlsguidetopm.com, and I asked them how they use collaboration tools today. 94% said they do use them for their work, and that is a long way from the blank faces I got when I talked about collaboration tools on the stage back at that APM event in 2008. When I asked them why they use them, you can see on this pie chart, the results were pretty mixed. Sharing documents was one of the green sections. That was the biggest use at 27%. And more than 1 in 5 people said that they use them for communication. So that pushed a lot of the communication we do into a much more real-time bracket than what I think we would have seen if I'd asked this question back in 2008. So I promise this is relevant to project reporting. Let me tell you why. Back when I became a project manager, which was over 10 years ago now, maybe more like 13, 14 years ago, I would produce a monthly steering group report, much like this one that you can see, and that would just be fine, adequate. It would be seen as the latest project status, and it would only be an emergency situation where someone would ask for anything else, where someone would come to me and ask for something more up to date. Today, stakeholders have different expectations of project information because they can get other information at the click of a button. And you probably do too, thanks to Google. I expect real-time information about the weather, the trains, stock prices, and stakeholders expect real-time, up-to-date status reports. Or at least they expect you to give them information whenever they ask for it by return of email. We have to manage those expectations and always be on top of project status in case anyone asks. And frankly, that is your job. That's part of the role. Managing expectations of stakeholders is another really important part of the job. I was doing some research on communications, and I asked the projectmanagement.com community for their top communication tips, and I saw this in their responses. The number one tool reported for managing stakeholder communications is stakeholder management in its widest form. They mean the technique of stakeholder management. And you can see the sort of responses here. Identify your stakeholders, carry out traditional stakeholder analysis. And there's more as well. Identify your stakeholders, and you can also assess power, legitimacy. You can categorize your stakeholders. Now, there's no denying that The stakeholder management processes, documents, analysis, all that stuff that you do during the startup normally of a project, they are great tools for communication. They give you a great grounding for how you are going to communicate on your project. But you cannot create engagement or change behavior or have decisions made by filling in a power and impact grid. You need more than this stakeholder analysis piece of work that you fill in at the beginning to make people understand what it is you're trying to do. You need actions. And project reports are a good way to get action, to talk about action, and to record action. And something else as well, we don't work in a way that is conducive any longer to this type of once a month, non real time communication. We're much more likely, or just as likely, to work in this kind of environment you can see in this picture from a mobile phone, at a cafe, in between meetings, at a client site, or even from home. I do spend a lot of time at my desk, but my project sponsor, not so much. He's out on the road, he's trying to look at Word documents on his Blackberry with complicated tables, and they don't display very well. So I think we need to start thinking about how we communicate in writing, in report format, and just think a bit differently. Despite technology moving on, in many respects, the way we communicate with our project sponsors does still follow the tried and tested route. I've written several books about project management, but I've never really covered project reporting in any depth, but that's going to change because today that's pretty much all we're going to talk about. And I'll see if I can get some other tips for communications in here as well today. Right, so let's get on. What are these 5 ways to impress your sponsor with awesome reports that I've been trailing? Right, I'll tell you. Impressive reports are relevant, timely, trustworthy, accurate, and clear. If you're taking notes, you might want to write those down. I tried to make it into a nice, neat acronym, but I couldn't come up with anything that wasn't forced, so we're sticking with the actual words for now. And today we're going to look at each of those in turn. I'll tell you more about how you can use those principles to supercharge your project reports and generally make your life easier when communicating about your project. We're going to look at those 5 things. First, the 3 data points you must include in your project communications to make them relevant. Then, the best reporting timetable for your project to make your communications timely. Third, the fastest way to build trust in your communications to make them trustworthy and to make you trustworthy, because there's a spin off benefit to your career for being someone that everyone trusts to do the right thing. Fourth, I'm going to share an easy way to get the correct data from your team to make your reports accurate. It's easy once it's in place, but it's not a 10-minute solution. To be honest, none of this stuff is actually, because while they might save you time overall, you have to build them into the way that you work first. Finally, I'll share with you the 3 layout elements that you should include in your reports to make them clear and easy to understand. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your project reporting process today? Type a number from 1 to 10 in the box, in the chat box, which so many of you have found now. I haven't been able to give shout outs to everybody, but thank you. We are reading all the messages as they come in. Before we go any further than this, I wanted to find out if you guys are truly happy with the way that you're reporting. Previously, when I've asked this question, I found that people haven't spent much time thinking about how they do reporting. They just do it because it's expected, and they don't really think about why they're doing it, or how they're doing it, or what it's for, or whether the way they're doing it is any good. Now, I think we should question all of this and question it often, because that's the only way we get any better at anything. So I've got some of the answers here. 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. That's not so bad, actually. 1 out of 10, oh, that's not good. 8 out of 10, great. So there's a mixed bag of people who are, there's a mixed selection of people with how happy you are, but generally, it's it's I would say the most that we're seeing here is probably sort of 5, between 5 and 6. Okay, interesting to know. Thank you. So, what if you could spend less time on the process, more time on doing things like this, which is working on stuff that really matters, working with your team to make real change happen? You can do that if you make reporting repeatable. So you aren't struggling with the process and the content every time. And it's got to be good quality so that it answers the questions that your stakeholders and clients have. Let's dig into those 5 things now. In the main, I'm talking about your regular weekly or monthly project status reports, but these tips are just as appropriate for any ad hoc report that you're doing, such as a paper on project status, or a summary at the end of a phase, or even a closure report at the end of a project. You can also use them anytime you write about your project, for example, in presentations. So our first point is making your reports relevant. I think people get hung up on including history and the journey to where you are now in your project. But in my experience, there's only 3 data points that you really need to worry about in your regular reporting. That's current status, what's holding you back, and the likelihood of completing the project in the way that they are expecting it to be completed. If your reports cover all of those points, then you're sorted. You've got really relevant information in the report which should cover the questions that most people have. The easiest way to talk about current status, in my opinion, is to use traffic light colour coding: red, amber and green. Red represents a project in trouble. Amber represents a project that is in difficulty but recoverable and with plans to turn it around. Green represents a project that's progressing to plan. You can include a RAG indicator, red, amber, green indicator, along with the short status about your project's current situation, and that's pretty good. Now, someone might correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think in the United States, traffic lights are called red, yellow, and green. But over here in the UK, it's amber, and that gives us the acronym RAG. We also use that as a verb. So we RAG projects when we rank and rate them according to status. Your project sponsor and other key stakeholders are also interested, or they should be, in what's stopping you making progress in any area. That could be project risks, outstanding decisions, or something else. This helps them know what they should be doing to remove roadblocks for you. Thirdly, are you managing expectations? Are you going to complete your project in the way that they are expecting it to be completed? Because if you're not going to be able to deliver on time, on budget, or to any other criteria that they've set, then they need to know about it before it becomes a problem. If you don't know what their expectations are, or if you're worried in any way that you might not be able to include relevant information, ask them. That is a foolproof way to make your reports relevant. Ask your sponsor what they want to read about. Is it budget? Include that. Issues? Include those. Fingers crossed, their answer should tie back to your project's key success criteria, because you should be reporting on the things that really matter to the project overall. But you never know, they might be interested in something else. It's best to know so that you can give them what they want. The benefit of making sure that your reports are totally relevant and they're meeting your stakeholders' needs and expectations are that you don't have to fulfill requests for additional data outside your normal reporting cycle. In other words, if you get your reports right, full of meaningful stuff, and they answer the questions that your sponsor has, it should stop them bugging you for more. In reality, they will still have requirements, questions, data needs, but hopefully not as often. How does this help you spend less time? If you spend your reporting time on what's actually important, then you won't be wasting it trying to track down information for your reports that no one reads and no one cares about. You're focusing on what people want and need to know. The second tip for impressive reports is to make them timely. The best reporting timetable is the one that fits around decision points. My sponsor has a weekly board meeting at which he reports progress. So he needs weekly updates on a Friday from me, ratified in person with me Monday morning, in order to report back on Monday afternoons. So my weekly reporting schedule is built around that. Understand your project calendar and the wider business calendar. Talk to the people getting the reports. We do reporting for a reason, not just because it's something the project management books say we should do. And the reason is to help other people do their jobs by giving them the right information and to help them make decisions. So understand what and when those decision points are and make sure that any reports you do fit around the timetables that matter. Think what a star you will be if you turn in your monthly report just one day early because you know that your boss is off to a shareholders meeting the next day and you think it would be useful for him or her to have your project status available to them. Being timely means that you can show that you know the reports add value when they are linked to decision points, and it helps you help other people do their jobs. People like to work with people who are helpful and see the bigger picture. So it reflects well on you as a professional and as a PMO as well if you're collating the reports. This one might not save you much time overall, but it can save you from the last minute, I've got a board meeting and I need this tomorrow type requests, because you'll have visibility of the important dates and you'll have worked that out in advance. It can stop you having to rush around dealing with urgent deadlines when you've got other work to do because somebody else has a need for information. The third thing to consider if you want to make your reports awesome is that you need other people to believe that they are trustworthy. In other words, you want them to believe the information that is in your report and to take your status at face value. If you say it's green and going well, you want them to believe it. If you say there's a problem, you want them to take it seriously. You want your audience to trust you and to trust you to report the right things and to trust the content in the report to be representative of what is actually happening on the project. There should be no surprises for your sponsor. Reports are definitely not the best way to find out about major project problems. There are plenty of other ways you can do that, and you should put big problems in your reports, but only once you've cleared them through other communication routes. You should send your reports to your team members as well. I mention that because I know not everyone does it by default. Sometimes reports only go to stakeholders, clients, users, customers, whatever you want to call them, but not the people who are working side by side with you doing the job. The fastest way to build trust between you and the team is to not drop them in it. You don't want your reports to be full of blame or things that come as a surprise. This is definitely not the way that they should find out about changes or amendments to your schedule. You have plenty, again, other opportunities open to you to talk to them about those. Although, once you've discussed it with them, they should, of course, be mentioned in your reports. Mostly, I think we consider formal project reporting and communication as something we do to people outside the project team, but you have to have them on your side. They are ambassadors for your project and they need to be talking about it, promoting the benefits of your project with the people they work with and meet. They'll provide you with updates for your standard communications, but they've got to understand current status as well, because they'll get questions from your users or their colleagues or stakeholders who meet them at other events or other meetings. They can do that part of their job better if they understand the big picture, and they can get that through reading your reports. It also means that everyone hears the same version of the story, whatever their position. Everyone has to hear the same version of the story, because it really undermines your communication efforts if different groups of people get different versions of the truth. Staying on message limits the impact of your message being changed as people share it with their colleagues. It's also surprisingly easy for a team member to undermine your efforts about talking positively about your project, even if they don't mean to, with just a few offhand remarks. Maybe they're sharing something that you told them in confidence or that you didn't specifically say was in confidence, but you felt would be taken for granted that way. If they have the reports, then they'll know what the message is out to the outside world. And I think you'll be more trusted as an individual if your team feels that you're representing their work properly in your reports. They'll believe that you're sharing everything with them because the reports are a transparent reflection of the work that's happening. If they see in the reports, whether they're a colleague, an audience member, whatever you want to call them, a stakeholder, or they're part of your management team or part of your project team, if they see things in your reports that they weren't expecting, then they could start to feel that you're hiding things from them. Or, I don't know if this is worse actually, simply that you just aren't on top of everything. So, the main benefit to come out of being trustworthy when communicating about your project is, unsurprisingly, simply that people trust you. It is huge in project management. So, for the people who responded earlier saying they were aspiring to be a project manager, think about how you're going to build up your credibility um, and professionalism and show people that you have those skills about leadership, because someone with good credibility who is trustworthy will find it much easier to get work done through other people. Your reputation, and I think this goes for all jobs, not just project management, but your reputation counts for a lot. You'll also save time because you'll believe what the team are telling you, and you won't have to go rooting around for a different version of the truth or spend too much time trying to put what they've told you into language that is acceptable to your stakeholders. When people feel confident that they can give you the truth about the problem and you aren't going to turn that against them, you will find it easier to make your reports accurate, which is number 4. The fourth thing that you should be doing when writing about your project is to make sure that what you report is accurate. I said I would share the easiest way to get correct data from your team. Correct data is basically the fundamentals of making your reports accurate. What you need to do is get your process set up. As I said, that isn't a 10-minute job, but once you've got it in place, it will save you time each week or whenever you do your reporting. A repetitive and repeatable process lets everyone know what to expect, and it means people can plan their time around giving you what you need to report. So, you need to agree a process and stick to it. It could be getting updates from your team in your team meetings, or by calling them individually, or by them emailing you on a Thursday, or pulling data from your project management system and the team committing to having the data updated by the time that you do that. Whatever works for you. But don't do it one way and then change it next week. You want to set up a repeatable process that everyone can buy into and follow. And when everyone knows what's expected of them, then you can make it part of the way that you do things and it becomes routine. You can also set out all the expectations of for your team, and you can encourage them that they are to follow the process, because once you've set those expectations, you can then put plans in place to call out anyone who fails to meet them. Your process should enable and allow for feedback too. It shouldn't be just your team pushing information at you. Communication is a two-way street. If you don't understand something or you want more information about something, you have to allow time in your reporting process for that clarification to happen. You'll make your life easier if you have a process to get accurate information, because again, you'll cut down ad hoc queries from people asking why they've heard something different or checking up on whether the report is the latest version. And I've had that happen to me actually just last month, and I'll share this story with you. although it doesn't paint me in a great light, but never mind. I wrote a weekly report for a project I was working on. I forgot to include a pretty major problem that the project had suffered that week. It was resolved by the time I was writing the report. We had it resolved by Wednesday, and I did the report on the Thursday. But I should have included it because it took time from the team. You should include these things that are flagged as big issues. So I need to put my hands up. I was in a rush. I turned out a report that was good enough, but not perfect, obviously, because it missed out this big issue that we'd had. I sent it out to my stakeholder group, and my sponsor asked me for an update on that particular issue. If I'd included the outcome first time round, I would have saved myself from having to respond to his chasing emails, and he was right to chase. When you publish something that isn't 100% reflective of the current situation, then you look stupid because your audience knows more than you do. You'll also save time because your team will know what is expected of them and they can do it because the process is clear. When you have to spend time chasing and explaining, that eats into the other time you have to do other work, and a straightforward process can save you from that. Finally, I said I would tell you about the 3 layout elements that you must include to make your reports really clear and easy to understand. These are the things that I think set your reports out from everyone else's. They are subheadings, colour, and lists. Subheadings break big chunks of text into smaller sections, and you can do this within a cell in Excel or within a table cell in Word. So if your templates are set up like that, don't feel constrained by the text boxes you have to complete. I'll give you another example. In the weekly report template that I use, there is a box for Progress this week. In that, I use a subheading, which is the name of the major work stream in the project, one that everyone's very interested in right now. Then I use a bulleted list of what was achieved just on that work stream underneath that subheading. Then another subheading for other progress, and that covers all the other tasks, all the other workstream activity in another bulleted list. So within one box in my template, I've used subheadings to break up what I'm talking about and group topics logically together. Now, that's not rocket science, and it may be that you're already doing that, but I think from a reader's perspective, it really does mean that they can see what you're talking about and you're grouping topics under headings. Colour. That's how we spell colour over here. You can use colour to draw attention to key parts of your report, especially the project status. If you can't use colour, or you know that your report is going to be viewed in black and white, you can at least use a colour code like red, amber, green, red, yellow, green, like we looked at earlier. You can put your headings in colour, or you can use a background fill to highlight the project status section in red, yellow, or green, for example. Finally, lists. I've already talked about using lists in the reports that I do. Basically, the less text, the better. Use bullet points or numbered lists for work completed this week, due next week, top risks, issues, so on. It saves your stakeholders time when they read it as well because they don't have to look at lots of paragraphs. Lists can also help you with grammar because they're typically fragments of sentences rather than full sentences. If you don't feel super confident in your own grammar, you can pass your report on to somebody else to read. The closer you are to the report, the more time you've spent working on it, the less likely you are able to be to see the errors. And that's why it's a good idea to leave time between writing it and proofreading it, or give it to someone else to check for you. I mean, if you feel confident in your grammar and the way that you've expressed yourself, then you don't, of course, have to do that. But if you would appreciate a second pair of eyes, build that into your reporting timetable as well. That time lag will mean that you're never sending out anything that's been rushed, like I did, or not adequately checked. So, by using clear signposting in your reports to point out the important sections, using colour, making use of lists, you should end up writing less. Your reports will be clearer, so you'll get fewer queries from stakeholders who don't understand them. Actually, on that point, they probably wouldn't ask if they didn't understand what you'd written. They're more likely to carry on in ignorance. So By being clearer, you've got more chance of increasing understanding and getting people to know more about what you're doing. Having said that, I do acknowledge that sometimes it takes longer to write a short report than a long one because you have to put more thought into keeping it brief, and editing it down can take a while. Now, I'm getting reports that the audio has gone, so let me just have a quick look into that and see why that might be happening. No, that's looking okay. All right. Thank you for pausing and bearing with me during that point. Okay. So, to summarize, these are the 5 concepts to follow: relevancy, trustworthiness, timeliness, accuracy, and clarity. To make your project report stand out and to impress your sponsor with your professionalism, these are the things that you can do. They'll help you with professionalism, with clarity, and they can all be used within your existing report templates. And they're good maxims for other presentations and written communications too, and hopefully save you some time. So, let's recap why you logged in today. You might have wanted to find out ways to spend less time on reporting, more time leading your project forward. Or maybe you joined in today because you're fed up with not being able to get your message across effectively in your reports, and stakeholders giving you the impression they don't know what's going on, despite you giving them lots of information. Or maybe it was because you feel it's just too difficult to do good reporting, and it shouldn't be this hard. So, the tips that I've shared today, they're not theory from one of my books. This is actually what I do in my job. Everything I've told you today is what I've learned on the job and from writing literally thousands of project reports in my career, some a lot better than others. And I have something else that will help you win back more time and shout loudly about the great things that your project is doing. I've been working on it for a while and I've tested it with some real project managers, and I wanted to tell you more about that today too. Better Project Status Reports is a complete solution to working out what you need to report and getting your systems in place. It's a 5-step process for communicating confidently about your project. If you've ever worried that you aren't really meeting the needs of your stakeholders or your PMO through your written communication that you produce about your project, specifically about reporting, then this is perfect for you. It's an online, tablet-friendly, self-paced training course. It's got worksheets, templates, videos. This is a screenshot of what it looks like when you log in. It covers everything you need to know to take the stress and hassle out of project reporting, and I walk you through it all. First, we talk about understanding your audience and what they want. Step 2 is all about making sure that you have the best format for your report. Did you think you had to stick to Word documents or Excel spreadsheets? There are a lot more options open to you than that. The module also comes with some great templates, so there's all the formatting is done, all the setup is done for you. Step 3 is defining your content, and we spend some time in the course looking at what you need to include in your reports and really go in depth into what to focus on. Step 4 is a primer on getting your message across, so we look into more depth in style, voice, grammar, everything really to write confidently and clearly. And finally, I go into ways that you can use reports to move your project on by using them to get decisions. We talk about what to do to get your sponsor to take action as a result of the information that you're providing. And this is probably my favourite step because this is what reporting is for. It's taking decisions, it's moving things on, it's getting help where you need it. As I said earlier, communication is part of it, but really reports are there to provide management information for decision making. And I know from talking to project managers that getting sponsors to step up and unblock problems for you, it can be a real issue. So the course includes, this is what you get, my 5-step process for crafting perfect project reports that I've just explained. There's 5 professional report templates, 3 worksheets, a case study. There's a bonus lesson in there about how do you write about bad news? What happens when things all go wrong? And another bonus lesson on using reports to build your brand. So that's about creating a great reputation at work and also using your reports to get recognition for your team, but without overdoing it and being, too much blowing your own trumpet. Just getting that balance right. It's all online, it's self paced, and you can work through the material at your own speed. And it's all available now. You've got lifetime access for as long as the course is available online. So, what does it cost? It's $97, and I think that represents a small investment for the confidence that you'll get. And that includes your 5 report templates, which are customizable, so you can edit them and make them perfect for you if they're not great as they are. I think they are, but you might want to make changes for your own, adding on your own logos and things. And the web address for that is girlsguidetopm.com/reporting. If you don't like it, I will give you your money back. I don't want you to end up with a product that you can't use or don't think suitable for your career stage. And I know it's a big step to part with your cash when there's so many other training courses available. So I want you to feel confident and that it's a risk-free offer, and I will give you your money back if it isn't for you. So here's that URL again. So I said I had a bonus for you as a thank you for attending the webinar. I'm going to send you a reporting timetable that sets out what you need to be reporting and when. This is the front page of it there. It covers what you need to report daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and on an ad hoc basis to help you keep track of what reports are due when. And hopefully you'll find it useful to make sure that your reports are more timely, make sure that you are in tune with other things that are happening in your company. So look out for that in your inbox. I'll send you the link to it. It's a PDF. If you're interested in learning more about reporting, I just wanted to show you what you'll see when you go to the course link that I shared, the Girls Guide to PM reporting. That's the payment page. I've tried to make it where it's got as little data on as possible because I hate it where pages ask you for all kinds of information that's not really relevant. And after the purchase, you'll create a password and you get logged in straight to the course for instant access. And this is what it looks like. And I've also got a sample of a lesson that I can show you. There's some videos. You can see at the top there's some resources, the downloadable lesson resources, and I'm pretty pleased with it. That's not a great screenshot of me in the video, but there you go. There's some videos that introduce each lessons as well. If you have any questions about it, then you can reach out to me on Facebook or on Twitter, and I'll be there. I'm there quite a lot. And even if you don't have questions about this, you can always connect with me there. I'm always happy to chat about projects. So now we've got some time for questions and answers. I think we're doing okay for time. Yeah, we are. So let me just have a look and see what questions we've got in. Here's one, and I hear this quite a lot actually. My boss hasn't asked for status reports. Should I do them anyway? Yes, I think you should. You don't have to do them weekly, but taking the time at the end of every month to record what you've done, key issues, what you've got planned next, and anything that you need your boss to help with, like outstanding decisions, that's got to be good. I think it shows your boss that you're taking the project seriously. It acts as a good record for you as well. And it's something that you can use at the end of the year when you need to pull out what you've achieved that year for your end of year reviews. I've got another question here. How much information should you include about project risks? I would say the top 3. A short description of the risk owner, and try not to make it you for all of them. Risk ID, then a short overview of what you're doing about it or what the mitigating action is. They should be the things that are worth flagging to your sponsor and that will eliminate many of the small risks. So you don't want to record all the small risks on your report, just a few that you need to flag up to them. And in step 3 of the course, actually, I define the content of a good report in more detail and talk about what level of detail you should go into about things like risks. Mara Lynn has a question. What's the best method for creating a searchable list of projects? She says, I tend to use too many different systems. Word, Outlook, and OneNote, depending on how I receive the tasks. That is a excellent. Um, that's an excellent question. I find that, well, I tend to default to Excel. There are project management software tools that will allow you to create an entry, a project workspace per project, and then you can have a dashboard. But if you're at the moment using Word, Outlook, and OneNote, then I would say you're probably not using a project management software tool. Excel works for me because I can filter by project, I can group them. I find for dealing with lists, it's actually a lot more flexible, even though it's not really designed for um, big text documents. It's a lot more flexible than Word. I can categorize them, then I can filter on categories. I can add in key stakeholders or key project sponsor, or department, so I can filter on that too. So that means it's quite easy to be able to see if you need to report to a particular person. You just filter on how many projects you've got in that area, and then you can make sure that you're covering all of those different things. Here's a question about the course. How long does it take me to go through? I would say half a day to a day. There are 7 lessons in total, and then you've got to put some work in to change what you do, to create some processes, format your own reports, work through the worksheets. Um, I would say that that's probably about right, about between a day and a half, between a day and a half. It's difficult to say. People learn at different paces. Okay, now I said we would be about 45 minutes, and I think we're about to run over. So I just wanted to thank you all for your time today. And if other questions have come in, I'm sorry I haven't been able to answer them all, but I will try and go through all the messages and make sure that I get back to everybody individually in the next sort of day or so. Um, and I really appreciate you coming along to the webinar tonight. I've been Elizabeth Harrin from A Girl's Guide to Project Management. Thank you very much.